Hey everyone, welcome back to Tek Tok Thursdays at Impact. This week we have with us Mirza Asrar Baig, the founder and CEO of CTM 360, a leader in cyberspace for managed threat detection and response, digital risk management, threat intelligence, corporate and VIP brand protection, and anti-phishing. Mirza is here to share his valuable insights on how corporations and customers can detect and respond to threats in cyberspace, especially during a pandemic, where most of the sectors are required to conduct their operations remotely. So without further ado, let's get started. Hello, Mirza, how are you doing?
Fine, Sunita, all well. And thank you for having me here on this talk.
That's our pleasure. So let's start. According to IBM's chairman, president, and CEO, Ginny Rometty, cybercrime is the greatest threat to any company in the world. With evolving technology comes evolving hackers. Is corporate behind in terms of cybersecurity? What is your take on it?
Okay, so what your question is if Bahrain corporate sector is ready or at par on security, cybersecurity?
Yes, exactly.
I'll answer it in two angles. One, let me take it from the broader spectrum. In the broader spectrum, Bahrain has been doing a lot in the sense of cybersecurity. You know, there is a ranking by ITU, which is the International Telecommunication Union. And they rank Bahrain number 7 in the region and 68th globally. So we are somewhere in the middle. At the same time, cybersecurity at a national level in Bahrain is being taken as a very important aspect. The government puts a lot of efforts in it. We already have cybersecurity as a fundamental pillar in ICT framework in Bahrain. Plus, Bahrain has multiple initiatives at the national level where they even have something called cyber hawks, where all the people within the government community, they get together to figure out what is the best way to detect and respond to cyber attacks. But this is just generic, let's say we were talking about. But the question which you said, where you want to rank it, you know, globally, if somebody asks me, everybody is behind. In cybersecurity, the whole world is behind. Why? It's a very, very simple fact will tell you that. You look at cyber losses over the last 30 years. Every year, the losses grow exponentially. Now, there is a cybersecurity ventures were predicted that by 2021 or 22, the cyber losses in 1 year will reach about $6 trillion. Just 2 years back, they were about half a $500 billion per year. So now this growth of cyber losses, which keeps on and on and on, it clearly signifies the world is behind. I have this own notion that they're not doing it right and they need to be, there has to be a fundamental shift in the approach. So I call it a different approach because up till now, the way the world has been looking on security, especially cybersecurity, the terminology, they look at it as a defensive mechanism. And there is a complete framework of defense in depth. I am claiming offense in depth. But that's a very big subject, maybe for another day. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, that was insightful, Mirza. So what has your entrepreneurial journey been like? What inspired you to start CTM 360? Did you always want to venture into the cybersecurity space?
No, not so. Let me give you a little more background about myself. I was born in Saudi.
Perfect.
I graduated from King Fahd University in Saudi Arabia across the bridge. And that my graduation happened back in '83. 1 year, I was an employee at Computerland selling personal computers. But then on, I started my own entrepreneurial journey. And the first thing which I did was back in '85 that I established a shop for selling comparable computers, not IBM computers. And those were the very beginning days when people did not even know about IBM comparables. In those days, Apple comparable was a little more in at that time. So from then on, I kept on growing that business. It grew very well. I had showrooms all across the kingdom. I had an office in Hong Kong. But then came the first Gulf War. And the first Gulf War changed the fundamental to me for the economics in the region. So that also made me realize that this part of the world, we need to do something different. We can't just be focusing on oil. And there is a dire need of R&D in this part of the world away from the oil as well. So I started my journey differently from 92 onwards. And then between 92 to 97, I was trying to figure out what to do. I tried building ERP package, but then I saw there are so many of them already out there. I went on to some groupware applications and so on. Wasn't that much interesting. While doing that, I came across setting up email gateways for organizations. At that time, internet was not there in Saudi Arabia. So I set up a solution for companies in Saudi how to get internet email. That's the time I realized viruses coming across email, and the bulb went on. Security. That's the right place to be. The whole world is new in that area. So we will have a lot of room for innovation and research. So since 97 to date, that's cybersecurity only. Though I had my hiccups back and forth in that. All what I tried in the beginning did not really work. I launched my first email firewall back in early 2000s. Nobody wanted it. It was local. Then I tried another one. I set up a SOC, and then I also established on PCI, payment card industry, on the banking sector, a tool set. Everybody wanted my consulting services, but tool, nobody was interested really. It was local. But 2014, when I started building CTM 360, I decided I have to burn all my boats, which meant that I need to shut down all other businesses, which I did. And I started this initiatives of CTM 360, and mashallah, it took off. And out of that, I've also built another company, EDX Labs, which is an R&D, purely R&D company. And we've already floated a few more technologies.
Well,
good.
That's actually inspirational, because you've had your own failures before you succeeded, right?
Oh, everybody needs to go through those failures.
Exactly. So CTM 360 is a cybersecurity company headquartered in Bahrain that currently serves more than 30 of the top GCC banks, oil and gas entities, sovereign wealth funds, etc. So what are those values within your team that has caused your reputation to be stellar amongst your clients?
Oh, a number of things, not one. And one of them I would say is that saying no. Now, that's a odd thing, we say no. Because if you want to stay focused, you need to say no to a number of things. In our part of the world, we are assumed that when we use the word cybersecurity, which is a much broader term, people come to you and they want anything and everything on cybersecurity from you if they're already happy with something which you gave them. And you have to say no if you're not in that aspect of cybersecurity. And that's a very difficult thing to do, because people are offering you business, we can give you this business as well. Go and get us this kind of technologies, and you're saying, no, sorry, I'm not in that business. And this no became very difficult for me when I was trying to shut down all my other aspects of businesses which I had, because even after I said, this is all what we do, CTM 360, people still wanted other things from us on cybersecurity, like sell us this firewall. We are very interested. And I'm saying, sorry, we don't do that. Why? Okay. So this is one thing which in time, everybody values a lot. That, these guys want to be master of something, not a jack of all trade. So they start taking value from, and they know that if we say no, it really means something. And then in any area we step into, it really means that we are serious about it. Then there is another aspect which, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I've been having this statement at the end of my description that we are very much focused on value for all stakeholders. Nobody should lose. Normally in any kind of business, when you're doing, you don't realize that there are so many different stakeholders, even the community is a stakeholder. country where you're operating as a stakeholder. You know, there are national bodies which are, you have to make sure everybody wins. Now, when you're trying to do that, again, you're trying to do in a way that you will end up maybe minimizing your margins or not having the kind of big business which you wanted to have. And people may think in the beginning, and this has happened to my own staff as well, they were not believing that we should do it in that aspect. But customer values it a lot, and eventually people realize, yes, there is more trust with this organization. So the trust building becomes the most important aspect.
Perfect. So recently you had been a panelist for a webinar hosted by Simplify Advisory in association with Impact Business Incubators regarding the implications of work from home on cybersecurity and data protection. With many businesses encouraging their workforce to work remotely, which in turn exposes them to a new set of cyber risks, does CTM 360 equip businesses with such cybersecurity and data protection?
Very much zoomed into our focus area only. Okay. Yes, we do. Because our business, CTM 360, is not about security technologies inside your premises. It's all about outside. So one of the aspects which happens is that we write a lot of advisories and we write research reports to guide organizations. I personally do board briefings as well. So I'll go in to guide them exactly how or what is the best way to look at information security and how to adopt it. In that sense, in fact, let me also give you my own definition of what is cybersecurity, because when you're trying to explain to people how best to address the aspect of cybersecurity,
exactly,
there is a confusion. There are three different terminologies: IT security, information security, and cybersecurity. If you understand the distinguish between all three of them, then you have a better chance of managing cybersecurity, information security, IT security in the right manner. So what is the difference? IT security is all about end user, to enable end user to do more. Whereas information security is not about end user, it's about assets, how to secure your assets. So the difference between the two can be understood when you look at the police and the military. The job of the police is to give more secure area for the citizens to go around. Whereas the job of the military is, we need to protect critical assets, people may die. Okay, so these are two different missions. When you come to cybersecurity, cybersecurity is not about people, it's not about your assets, it's about attacks and threats. Cybersecurity's task is to identify and neutralize attacks in real time. And so much of this they have to do outside the organization because the attacker is outside. Then they need to support the internal teams of IT and information security. So from that angle, we are able to guide organizations rightly how they should be doing it, especially with this COVID-19 situation, when people are also already moving so much of their working from home and moving all these assets outside.
Perfect, perfect. Mirza, we have a developing but a pretty robust community of startup founders across various verticals in Bahrain. What would be your advice to them in terms of how they should approach cybersecurity as they build out innovative products for customers, given that these startups would be very cost sensitive?
Okay. The advice is, what is the advice for every business, really? When you talk about cybersecurity, it's not just to startups. The problem is that cybersecurity or information security is looked upon as an afterthought. People start doing the work first. They're more keen, businesses more keen in building products and delivering the outcomes of the product to the customer. And they don't think of security in the beginning. Whereas if they do it rightly, they can benefit a lot more by thinking in advance. How? Let me ask you a question. Why do we have brakes in a car? What's your answer?
So when we have a problem, like when we have a, when we're going to dash on thing, we need to apply.
Stop the car. That's the wrong answer.
Okay.
You have the brakes. You have the brakes in the car that to enable you to drive fast. This is the right approach. The better the brakes, the faster you can drive. The biggest brakes are in Formula One car. So what it means is that cybersecurity really provides you the assurance, if you look at it rightly, and it gives you that assurance from so many risks that you can take more risks. Okay? If you go to Germany on autobahns, there is no speed limit because they believe that they are having the cars and the road very much secure. So they say, you know what, drive fast as much as you want. So if you do things in advance, if you look at security and think of it as an investment to enable you to do more business, then it helps a lot. So this is one part, but because you mentioned startups, I have one more angle. If you don't mind, I want to say that, when it comes to startup,
they're cost sensitive, right?
Yeah. No, it's not that part. I'm trying to focus on another angle. This was not your question, but I want to say it. If you see my slogan in EDX Labs, it says build locally, scale globally. For startups, please, they have to think global. They have to think data. A localized solution would not work. It may do a temporary job, but if you're not thinking big, you're not thinking global, that whatever you're building, you want to take it global. From now, you have to think. So before even you start, you have to be thinking like that there are these areas where you want to grow to. And the first thing you want to do is at least address GCC, then the whole Arab world, then the world. Okay?
That was a great advice. So the pandemic has disrupted the normal functioning and operations of almost all businesses across sectors. How has COVID-19 impacted the cybersecurity industry? Is there an increase in the demand for cybersecurity experts to make sure remote working is conducted without the risk of being cyber attacked?
Yeah, definitely. Cybersecurity has been thrown in the forefront because COVID-19 makes you work from home, and suddenly so many more security issues open up. What was not imaginable in the past is being done now. See, me and you, we are having this Zoom call.
Exactly.
I am having calls with so many senior people, CEOs, COOs on such a manner. Whereas in the past, when I needed to meet up, they'll say, no, come, we'll see you. And I would fly into UAE just for one meeting sometimes. And it's all gone. Now everything is technology. But of course, as you said, technology brings in a lot of security issues. So we have to be really concerned that it is developing and it is bringing around the whole mindset change from the cybersecurity aspect. There is a big shift happening. There will be a lot of more gap on cybersecurity skills. We were already short on cybersecurity. If you look at the bigger impact of COVID, or forget COVID for a while, let's just look at what was happening even before COVID. There was digital transformation happening. What people were not realizing were that many jobs would go away. And they were already predicting that by 2022, the world will lose like 75 million jobs. But you know what? It has been pulled forward. So the world may lose 75 million jobs right now this year, maybe not 75, maybe much more. So there will be a big skill set gap as well. And same thing will happen to cybersecurity. There is a huge gap of cybersecurity. So people need to acquire a lot of new skills.
Perfect. Lastly, do you have any message that you would like to share with our audience?
Okay. In terms of cybersecurity, in terms of general.
In terms of,
Okay. Let me
yes.
give you my entrepreneurial side of it.
Yes, exactly.
Problem solving mindset. I am having myself this difficulty with my staff when I'm hiring, getting them on board. I always struggle with them to say, how you can be adopting the problem solving mindset. You need to be with a rapid learning mindset. You have to go back and learn how to learn. There are videos and there are ways you can learn how to learn. So that is what is required now. You need require that rapid learning. You need to get on to this path where You have to think strategically in a different manner. It is called critical thinking, exponential thinking, design thinking. You have to continuously read up and learn about it. That will make you or enable you to be prepared for the coming future. Okay?
A lot, Mirza, for taking time to engage with us. I'm certain that your approach towards helping corporations and individuals combat cybersecurity threats would help them to sustain their businesses with robust and foolproof measures. A big thank you to all our listeners as well. Stay tuned and keep watching Tech Talk Thursdays for some interesting sessions with promising entrepreneurs. Until then, stay safe.